Well, good day, everybody. This is Joe Van Cleve, and welcome back to the Typewriter video series. And today we have a special guest, Kevin Kittle, fellow Albuquerque typist. This guy has been involved in typewriter collecting since way before there was ever a typewriter revival, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started probably typewriter collecting back in, gosh, I guess officially maybe it would have been about 1988 or something like that, or maybe I had typewriters before that, but actually kind of wasn't until I really came here to Albuquerque that I started doing the collecting part.
Well, and you've been collecting a lot of typewriters over the years, but more recently you've been on a kick of collecting a certain category of typewriter. What is that?
It happens to be Ultraportables.
Ultraportables, or what maybe used to be called lightweight portables.
Lightweight portables,
okay.
or the smaller portables and all that stuff. And it wasn't so much that I wanted to necessarily get the Ultraportables use them over using the other typewriters. It just kind of started rolling, you know. It started just going like that, and all of a sudden I thought, oh, that'd be a cool typewriter, and then, you know, that to have, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, that's right. Now, you found a resource early on when you started getting interested in these Ultraportables, a resource in Richard Polt's book, right?
Right. Yeah, now that Richard Polt, when I got the Typewriter Revolution book, like a lot of people have gotten, and he breaks them down between standard full-size typewriters and then what's kind of considered standard portable typewriters, and then he breaks them down to ultra-portables. So an example of a standard full-size typewriter would be your Underwood 5, of course, and your Royal 10 and things like that. And then regular portables would be Olympias, SM3s, 4s, and Smith Coronas and stuff like that.
Right.
And then he goes into the whole list of the Ultraportables, which is in this page here showing the Lettera 22 and the Olympia SF, the Groma Calibri, and then the whole list. And so what I ended up doing, because I ended up finding out that I had this one, and I had, Joe gave me this one, and we ended up with a Roy, and all that stuff. And so I thought, this is really interesting to compare them. And what I do use the Ultraportables for is because we talked about postcards and how we built on that, and what's the best traveling typewriter. Because I use a typewriter to do correspondence while traveling.
Right.
And so then I just decided at some point, because I already had about half of his list already, so I just used his whole list to complete it out.
Wow. And I also noticed, though, that he uses the terminology ultraportable in the book. You know, there's some controversy online and different discussion forums and whatnot, and maybe Facebook, about, is it really an ultraportable? Where did the word ultraportable come from? And that's sort of the old-timers in the typewriter collecting. They didn't call him that back then.
They didn't call him that.
But Richard Polt is probably the first, his book, I would say, is maybe one of the first references where you find that in print.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's true. Because for the longest time, we've had a Lettera 22, and also my first typewriter was Olympia SM7, and they were just portables.
Yes,
that's how we looked at them.
Right.
And the Lettera, well, it's a smaller than the Olympia, but we never really thought about it. Oh, is it an ultra portable or anything like that, or a lightweight portable?
Right.
I didn't know that much about typewriters when we first got them, so we didn't make that differentiation.
Well, so I would say about last summer when we started meeting regularly in the evenings, we started talking about Ultraportables, and you brought up a good question, which we've still been discussing to this day, is about the whole distinction between portables and ultraportables.
Well, exactly. Right? What defines an ultraportable?
Right? Now, you have like dimensions, length, width, and height.
Right.
And then you have weight.
Right. And then you also have, now that's of the typewriter itself.
Right.
And then you have length, width, and height of the typewriter in its carrying case, whatever that might be.
Right. So, ultraportability is, in my mind, and you probably agree, is about how easy is it to carry.
Right.
The word portable being the operative word, right? So it is ultimately about size and weight. And as we were talking about it before the video, we kind of figured that maybe of the size part of that, perhaps the height, or what you might call thickness, is maybe the most important of those.
Yeah, we did some data collecting, checking out on that, because now I have a collection of 20 some odd Ultraportables.
Wow.
different models.
Yeah.
Some esoteric, meaning that they're harder to get by. Some more common that everybody seems to have. And so you and I did some data collection, and about that. Oh, just as a side comment too,
Yeah.
one of the comments that we heard at the Phoenix Type Out about Ultraportables was that if it's carriage shift, it can be an Ultraportable, but if it was segment shift, it couldn't be. and you're going, what?
What? Who says that?
Who says that? Because basically, when you look at the list, almost all of them are carriage shift,
Right.
And of course, the Lettera series, the
Right.
22 and the 32, are segment shift.
And they're certainly within the size and weight realm.
Right, yeah, certainly with the size wave. So that was kind of just an interesting
So one of the
comment.
most popular Ultraportables breaks that mold.
Right. Yeah, and I think that has to do with because whomever you are, you have biases. Oh, I really like this machine more than that. So I don't want to categorize it because I really like this machine or I don't like this machine. Right. But in the going with the different things, so what we did is we measured, trying to figure out what makes that defining line between a portable, standard type portable, or an Ultraportable.
Right. And we decided, first of all, that the height of the machine when it was being used doesn't really matter. I mean, how tall are you above the table? It could be this tall, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter when you're using it, whether it's 3.5 or 3 inches or whatever. Right.
And as you found when you're using your SM3, that there's a really big advantage to having a tall typewriter.
Oh yes, exactly.
Because you have that visual block.
It puts the work up and it blocks the background distraction, right? So, so we think that the stowed away or carrying height, as we call it, right? The carrying height. When you have it in the case, or if it doesn't have a case in its bag or whatever, how high is that is the first thing, and then the carrying weight.
Right, because obviously if you're carrying it, the weight, including whatever carrying case it might have, because that just adds to whatever else you might have to carry. Paper or anything else.
So what did we come up with here?
Well, it's kind of interesting. We did some measurements of a few, by not complete, of some portables, standard portables, and one thing we noticed was they all are carrying height bigger than 5 inches. And I had measured a Triumph Gabriel. It was 5 1/8 inches. The Smith Corona series, it varies if it's electric or non-electric, but the Silent Super or Silence, they were 5 3/4 in its case. And then the Olympia SM3, which is kind of a standard, is 6 1/8. And then if you get in the other ones, I know my Royal and the Quiet Writer and stuff like that, they're all going to be thicker. So that kind of gave us an idea. They're all taller than 5 inches.
Yeah, interesting. In the case.
In the case. And so then we went to looking at the Ultraportables, a number of them on the list that we have here. And then one of the first Ultraportables that everybody doesn't really think of as an Ultraportable, but kind of set the standard, is the Corona 3.
Right. Historically, it probably was the first.
It was first, yeah.
Right.
And it's this tiny, tiny typewriter. But when you fold it up and you put it in its case, how tall is it?
Yeah.
It's the thickness. It's not very big
footprint-wise, it's small.
It's small, yeah.
But it's
then you unfold it, and it lowers the height of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the Corona 3 is 4 5/8 inches, and then just.
So that puts it under the 5-inch mark.
Under the 5-inch mark. And it was kind of one of the taller ones. One of the ones that I have in its case was a Swissa. And it's 4 1/2 inches. And then I have a Royal Dart or Royal Light. And it's 4 1/2 inches. Dropping all the way down through the whole list, surprisingly, of course, everybody knows that in its case, the smallest one is the Roy.
Yes.
Because it folds on itself.
Yes.
And so it's 1 7/8 inches.
Wow.
But not that much bigger is, in its own case, is the Rocket, the Hermes Rocket, which was 2 5/8 inches. And then everything else kind of falls in between that.
Right.
As far as how tall is it.
Yes.
And then that defines what you like to know, to define is, can I fit it into a satchel carrying bag, throw it over my shoulder?
Right.
And you can't really do that with a standard typewriter. They're just too heavy, but also too thick. They don't fit in those satchels.
Right.
Whereas nearly all of the Ultraportables, you could fit them in there. Some of them you would fit better if you took them out of their own carrying case.
Right. Even the Corona 3 you could. Maybe a little bulky in the folded.
In the folded position, and you'd be kind of concerned about it being not held, is in that soft case.
Yes.
Is it going to mess up the levers and stuff like that because it's not protected like it is in its own case?
Right.
Yeah.
So it seems like under 5 inches. in carrying height.
In carrying height,
It seems to be that limit, yeah.
And granted, the typewriters themselves may be smaller than 5 inches, but it's what are they in the case that really matters.
Yeah.
Because you have the half shell case and all the different styles.
So then there's the aspect of the weight, right?
Right. And we were limited in our measurement because your scale tops out at 12 pounds.
Yeah.
So things went higher than 12 pounds, and which is interesting because when you look at the regular standard portable typewriters, they're all going to be over 12 pounds,
right?
Particularly in the case.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just like that. But and now when you look at where the top of the line of what's considered ultra portable, and that's where Richard Poult in his books makes reference to the Princess typewriter.
Oh yes.
That's slightly larger than most typewriters in this category, meaning the ultra category. Well, it tops out at, sure enough, 12 pounds plus.
Yeah.
And then the Swissa, which I have, which is it's 12 pounds plus. And then you finally start getting down into ones that are not 12 pounds. And the heaviest one that we measured was the Brother Webster.
Yes.
And it came out at 11 pounds 4 ounces.
Right.
And then surprisingly, you think, okay, now we're getting into the Roy and Rocket because they're so small.
Right.
They're thin metal. They're lightweight.
No.
Well, the winner on that particular one actually was the Rocket with its case at 8 pounds 5 ounces. The Roy, when you folded it on itself, was 8 pounds 15.8 ounces.
Oh, almost 9 pounds, yeah.
Right. And then again, all the rest of the typewriters fall within that range.
Right.
Most are in the
10 to 11.
10 to 11, 9, range, right in that, with their cases.
Right. So it looks like the Rocket is the weight champion of the ones that we measured.
Of the ones we measured,
Right.
Yeah, and everybody talks about now surprisingly, the Groma Calibri was as expected because everybody says they're built really heavy, and it was. So with its case, we came out to approximately 10 pounds.
Pretty close
ounces.
to the Royal Mercury in weight.
Yeah, very close to the Royal Mercury in weight.
Yeah, very much so. Well, that's interesting. So, it's a blurry line. It's not a sharp line. I think between portable and ultra portable or lightweight portable, but it seems like what you hit upon, this 5-inch height in carrying height in its case or whatever, seems to be an important measurement. And then as far as weight goes, they all seem to be pretty much under 12 pounds roughly.
Yeah, roughly 12 pounds. Yeah, I'm sure that when we had a scale that we could go above 12 pounds, that the Princess and the other one would be quite a bit less than Smith Cronus Silent Super or something like that.
Right. Now this has a lot to do with the name Ultra Portable, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is how practical, how pragmatic is it to carry, right? That's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
Because if you're not going to take it anywhere, you might as well have a standard typewriter at home or whatever, right? But the whole point of an Ultra Portable is the portability, right? So that's interesting. Weight and carrying thickness. Carrying weight and carrying thickness. How comfortable is it to lug? Now, one of those things, though, as we talked about, was a single handle, right, on a case versus slipping into a shoulder bag and being able to have both hands free and have it over your shoulder. That has a lot to do with it. You could carry a heavier machine over the shoulder than you could comfortably by hand with one handle.
Right.
And
why would you carry that shoulder bag? Well, the advantage of the shoulder bag is because when you're using a typewriter for correspondence, whether that is, you've got to have some paper.
Yeah.
Probably some correction tape.
Right.
And pretty much that's all you really need.
Maybe postcards and
maybe postcards or whatever miscellaneous, a pen or so if you're going to write notes on as you're doing actual writing of some sort. So you've got to be able to carry that. And then also the advantage of a satchel is that because nowadays we all have cell phones.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And being guys, we have to carry our wallet.
Yeah. And you got to have your multi-tool to get yourself out of the jam.
Yeah, your Swiss Army knife.
Swiss Army knife, and you may have to do an impromptu repair on your typewriter when you're at the coffee shop, and
so we have some things that we need to carry, and that's what those satchels are really good.
Oh yeah.
Although I found out recently buying a really nice leather satchel, it actually gets filled up when you're with other people going to antique stores. You're not carrying typewriters anymore.
And those other people would be like, significant others.
Significant others. And it gets filled up with an amazing amount of stuff. And none of it was typewriters.
None of it was typewriters.
Yes, that was
spare ribbons, maybe.
Oh, spare ribbons.
Yeah.
You might need spare
Now,
ribbons, right?
before we close it, I want to say that one of the things we purposely left out of this discussion was thermal typewriters, right?
Right.
That's, that's a whole other subject, and we'll get to that another day. Maybe that might be a fun little topic, comparing the smallest of the manual typewriters with the thermal typewriters.
Yeah, the thermal typewriters, they are very tiny.
Right. But as you say, you may have to worry about batteries, so you might want to figure an AC adapter and maybe a spare set of batteries as part of the carrying weight and size also.
It's like spare ribbon, because you don't need batteries for the manual typewriters, but you would need them for the thermal typewriters.
Yeah.
And depending on if you're doing on thermal paper or using the ribbon cartridge that comes in, you may not need a spare ribbon.
Right. And a roll of fax paper is kind of bulky, 2 inches roughly, but square, versus the brother paper that is, and it comes in a pack, and doesn't take up much space there. So we'll get into that in another video. But anyways, this has been an interesting discussion about ultra-portable typewriters, what used to be called lightweight portables, and kind of what defines that category. And look forward to upcoming video now on some of Kevin's machines. What is the next machine we're going to talk about in your collection, do you think?
Well, I think we'll start off with one, since we're talking about ultra-portables. We'll start off with the one that's considered a bigger one.
Okay, yeah.
And we're going to go with the Princess.
Yeah.
And my particular model is not a official Princess. It's a Maritza, which was a little later when they made in Bulgaria. So we'll talk about the Maritza.
A Bulgarian Princess.
A Bulgarian Princess.
Okay. Well, until then, hope you guys got some value out of this, and stay creative, and until next time, have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye.